Locho sambo pagyo trashe po tuche tembe trinle yarngo da pegye drolo tsambe tsebrache pande lame shabla solwa de Omo a guru vajra dara suma timo nishasane kar Uta varda nishri bar varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Pakyuke kudan dagi lu, pakyuke sundan dagi nga, pakyuke tukdan dagi yi, ten yerme chiktu jingi lu, makyuke kudan dagi lu, makyuke sundan dagi nga, makyuke tukdan dagi yi, ten yerme chiktu jingi lu. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakya Muni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamge Drola Pinchire Sangye Drubrasho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamge Drola Pinchire Sangye Druparasho Sangye Chedan Tsoge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamgi Drola Pinchire Sangye Druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. This morning we were seeing the process of death, starting with the gross level of the process of death. And the gross level of the process of death is divided into 4 steps, which is the dissolution of earth into water, water into fire, fire into wind, wind into the space of consciousness. Okay? So, and then after that there is the subtle death that we will see in a bit. The subtle death is divided into white vision, red vision, black vision, and clear light. So if we make like very short words to describe the process of death, we have earth, water, fire, wind, white, red, blue, clear light. Okay? These are, the 8 key words to describe the process of death. Okay? So it's actually quite simple if we look from this way. So, this morning we saw the first part of the growth process of death, in which we have earth dissolving into water, when we lose our ability of holding things, our body gets weak, and we cannot see anymore anything, and by that also we have the sensation of falling down also, okay? So this is basically the main aspects which are connected with the first part of the moment of death. And also there is the world around us becomes unclear. We are not able to see and understand much what is happening around, which is very, very similar to the very big moment when we start falling asleep. After that, there is what we saw also this morning, the dissolution of water into fire. So as water dissolves, again, we have the loss of the sensation, so we cannot have any more the distinction between the sensation of pleasure or suffering in related to the body, in relation to the mind. At the same time also we stop listening to sounds, and we can no more have both internal and external sound, and our body starts to dry up also. So the mouth, the liquids of the body, we can see it in the face of the person, and so on. So with that, what happens is that some people may ask, oh, but then what happens if the person is dying and there we are nearby making prayers and saying something to the person? Is it of any benefit or not? Actually, what happens is that the more the person goes through the process of death, the more the gross aspects of the person fade away, and the more the subtle aspects become more clear. So also the communication goes into a deeper and more subtle level. So for example, when we communicate to someone, actually the verbal part is a small part. That is much more related to the intention, to the energy that we put. And this becomes even more important at this time of the process of death. Okay? When a person is dying, it's not so much about what we say, but it's much more about the intention that we put, the energy that we put to the person. This becomes actually much more important than the actual specific intent words that we are going to say to the person. It's not a matter of making the person understand something. This can be useful before the person enters into the process of death. But at this moment, it's much more about the energy, it's much more about the intention than anything else, okay? So yes, we can still do a lot for the person at this moment. Now we go to the third part, which we haven't seen yet, which is the dissolution of fire into wind. So as fire dissolves into wind, the five phenomena of the class of the aggregate of discernment dissolves. They are the aggregate of discernment, the fire element, the olfactory sense power, inner smell, and the wisdom of discernment of the basis. So let's see. External signs. The aggregate of discernment. As the aggregate of discernment dissolves, we have the inability to discern one's own dear ones, such as one's parents and children. Which means as we lose our ability to discern, we lose the ability to say this is this, that is that, this is one person, that is another person. One example of the losing the ability of discernment is when a person has Alzheimer's. When a person starts having Alzheimer's, the person loses the ability of discernment of, okay, who is who, what is what, when, how, starts losing this ability of discernment. So at this moment of the death, what is happening is that gradually every gross aspect of the body and the mind start to shut down. Okay? So before first aspect that shut down is our ability to perceive the world around us, not so much. Then we lose the sensation, and now we lose the discernment. So it's also like when we start falling asleep, there is a point where we don't know anymore what is this, what is that. We are just falling asleep. Okay? So similar to that, at this moment of death, there is no more the ability to discern one place from another, one person from another, one object from another. Okay? Together with that, we have the dissolution of the fire element, so the loss of body heat and digestive power. The body starts to get cold, starting from the extremes, so which means from the hands and the feet. Slowly it starts to get more and more cold in the direction of the heart. Also, when we fall asleep, our body gets more cold also. Okay. Anyhow, in the process of death, it's also related with the circulation that gets weaker and weaker, and finally it stops in the heart. So in the same way, the heat starts having less heat from the hands and the foot, and slowly, slowly going up and going down until it's at the heart. Okay? So this is also what happened. It's another sign that the fire element is dissolving. We lose our sense of smell, and so the inhaling weakens and the exhaling becomes heavy and long with laborsome breath, which means because our smell sense power is dissolving, we lose it. What is happening at this time? The person inhales shortly and exhales more long. And the breath is not like in a beautiful, balanced way. It is more like there is some strong breathing out, and then the breathing in is not so beautiful and so harmonious necessarily, okay? There are people through which the process of death, this goes in a very subtle form. There are some people through which it happens in a very strong way also. And it is a part which is not really so nice to see on someone that is dying actually, okay? But what is happening here is that slowly the person is stopping to breathe. So there is more air going out than the quantity of air coming in. Okay? And the breathing is not so balanced anymore. It is more like unstable breathing. Okay? Then we lose also the inner smell, which is the inability to smell pleasant or unpleasant odors. And the wisdom of discernment is lost, so it's the ability to recall the names of dear ones, such as one's own parents or children. Okay? The first one, when we have the dissolution of the aggregate of discernment, we are not able anymore to distinguish between one person and another, one object and another. As we lose also the wisdom of discernment, we are not able anymore to say the names and to remember any of this. Okay? Like simply from this gross level, we don't connect anymore to names and to forms and to places with names. We simply not able anymore to connect through names. Okay? No, you cannot listen anymore. So if someone talks to you, you don't understand anyhow. Because already in the part before, when we had the dissolution of when we had the dissolution of water, we are already not able to listen anymore. So that's why I said that it's not a matter of cognitive talking to the person. It's more the intention that we can bring and the presence that we can bring to the person. So together with that, what happened is that at this moment, as the person have no more discernment, doesn't mean that there is no more any type of understanding or nothing is happening inside. There is no more any cognitive type of thinking. There is no more anymore that type of understanding which is, okay, I am here in the place called Albagnano, and together with me is this and that person, and so on. This more gross level of the mind, which is the more rational, cognitive part of the mind, is loosening. This doesn't mean that our mind has completely stopped. We still have the subtle part of the death to go, okay? But this aspect of our mind doesn't function anymore. When we fall asleep, happens the same. At a certain point, we are not able anymore to discern between one thing and the other, and then we don't have any more clear memories about things. It's like if everything starts melting together somehow. The reason why it's important to say things, okay, is not because the person necessarily needs to listen and understand. Okay? First of all, it depends at which phase we are thinking. One thing is to talk to the person as the person is about to die. Okay? And the person is still with the eyes open or has the eye closed, but okay, we are not so sure exactly at what point has the person arrived and so on, okay? It's not that we have some little flags going up or going down or whatever, and we say, okay, now this have happened, bing, one light, another light. It's not like that, okay? So, as we talk, two things are happening. One thing is there is energy being transmitted, and we are saying words, and we are not so sure exactly at what step the person is on the process of death. The other thing is that actually, when we talk, we direct our intention and our feelings, and we communicate from a much deeper level. which works even after the process of death. Okay? We need to understand that we have a much deeper way of communicating that is not only verbal. But as we verbalize things, we direct our intention and our energy and so on all together. Okay? So that's why it's also important to say certain things and to talk with the person in this way. We shouldn't treat the person that is dying as someone that has the inability of anything, so, okay, shut off all the rest as if nothing is happening because he doesn't understand anything. We should treat with respect and relate to the person, because the person becomes much more sensitive, because the gross part fades away and the subtle parts become more evident. Okay? So, what happens here? As we conclude this part, we have also the inner sign of the firefly-like vision, which basically it's like this. The first vision we had was that of a mirage, okay, mirage-like vision. So it's like if we close our eyes and there is some movement going on, and then we have at the same time some light and dark and shades and maybe some colors going on like this. Then from this, it becomes like one fog. Then from that, it becomes dark with some points of light coming, sparkling. Then suddenly it's like if all these lights join and there is one light, but it's not so stable. It's like when one candle is about to end, that is like flickering. Okay? It's not really like stable light. It's like a flickering light that it moves a little bit, it is not so stable, okay? So this is said to be the inner vision that we have at that moment, okay? So, with this we conclude the part which refers to the gross process of death. It is very important for us to know that for different reasons. One of them is that then we can recognize our own process of death when it's happening. And we can understand, okay, now Earth is better to know already from Earth, okay? Okay, now Earth is dissolving, okay, better I prepare myself, let's direct me well, okay? On the other aspect, when we see someone, we can go back and we can see, okay, what are the signs that are there at each step? And we can start understanding a little bit better. But what happens is that not always it happens exactly as we have described here, for many different reasons. One of the reasons is that very rarely we have people that are dying from a natural death. We have a lot of medicine that we take. There is a lot of, depending on the sickness that the person have. So depending on the sicknesses, depending on the medicine, depending on the machine, depending on so many things, what can happen is that while one element is dissolving, the other has already been dissolved a little bit together. Or maybe one part goes very fast, the other parts go very slow. Like from the earth dissolving until the wind dissolving, which is the actual moment which we call death, the gross death, it can take maybe a week for some people, or even longer. From some other people can be a matter of few minutes or few hours. Okay? There is no any fixed rule related to that. So, and again, it depends very much on the fact of what is the sickness? Some sicknesses by itself has already debilitated maybe the element of water. So the element of water has lost power before the earth element has lost power. Not because of the process of death, but because of the process of the sickness. So during the process of death, it looks like it had been gone before, but actually it was because of the sickness itself. So this is something that we need to see case by case on this. We cannot the general explanation is based on a healthy person dying, which means someone that dies from a natural death, okay? Not someone that has been taken by some strong sickness of one kind or another, okay? So, what is the same for everyone, independently of how long it takes, is what is dissolving during the process of death? The 25 gross level aggregate. This is what we are losing as we die. And this is the same for everyone. It has no difference if a person is sick or if the person is not sick, if it's long or if it's short. Okay? But once we start learning what are the signs of the process, we can actually start understanding and what part of the process the person is. Okay? So this is something that is useful for ourselves and for others also, okay? And one way of understanding it also is really analyzing and observing it through our own process of falling asleep. Right. You discern. Discernment doesn't necessarily be based on what you see and what you hear. Discernment is the ability to name. So it's the ability to say, okay, there are people, I have friends, I have enemies, there is my person, this, that person is the idea. Discernment is our ability to divide things and give names to them. Not necessarily. When you close your eyes and if you make like this, you still can discern. Okay? Which what I want to say is that in the moment that there is you cannot see anything, or you cannot listen anything, or you cannot smell, or you cannot feel touch, this doesn't mean that you don't have any discernment ability. You can discern, there are different types of sensations. You can discern between thoughts, you can discern between ideas. We can have many. It's not the person that is blind or is deaf, or that doesn't mean that the person have no discernment at all. We have internal discernment also on different levels, okay? It's just like we can, in many moments, our discernment is basic. We are there just thinking, the mind is not stopping, and maybe I need to do that, and I go here, and this is like this. Oh yes, because that is that, the other thing is that thing, and we are not relating to anything that we see or we listen. Not necessarily that busy at this moment, but this means that at this moment is when the person loses the ability of discernment, okay? But it's a gradual process, one after the other. It's like one part shutting down after the other. It's not all going together at once. Okay? Now, with this we conclude the part which relates to the gross process of death. Now we'll go to the subtle process of death. Okay? So, as we go through the dissolution of the elements, we have the part which is the gross process of death, and then we have the subtle process of death. Okay? So, we have seen a good part of the gross process of death. Now we have the last part in which wind dissolves into the of consciousness. Okay? As the wind dissolves into of consciousness, together with of the aggregate of the composition. All the other cases we had five. Here we have 7 things. The aggregate of composition, the good power of taste, the sense power, the inner touch, and the of the basis. So with that, we have the following external signs. As the aggregate of composition of factors dissolves, we have the inability to move one's own body. So, in the moment that the wind element dissolves, one of the signs is that until this point there could be still some sort of movement. From this moment on, there is no any sort of movement. As the wind element dissolves, the inhaling and the exhaling cease, and the 10 inner winds move towards the heart, which means there is no more breathing, the breath stops. And together with that, we have the 5 main winds, such as the descending wind, descending wind, ascending wind, life-sustaining wind, the all-pervasive wind, and the wind of fire, like the tumor wind, or the equalizing wind. So what happens is that this plus the 5 winds of the 5, all these winds go in the direction of the heart. Together with that also, the person stops completely breathing. So this is the moment in which normally we say, okay, the person has died. So the actual state of death is described by the moment in which the person stops breathing, which means when the wind element dissolves. So here we have the wind element, and then the gustatory sense power of taste. The tongue becomes thick, short, and blue at the base. Okay? At the same time, the sense power of touch dissolves, so there is a loss of the tactile perception of roughness or smoothness. There is no more any sensation of the body. No more touch. The inner taste and the inner touch dissolve, so we lose the ability to perceive the 6 tastes, and we lose the tactile perception of roughness and smoothness. At the same time, we lose the all-realizing wisdom, which is the inability to recall or desire any action or mundane necessity. There is no any more connection with this world. Okay? It's like we completely fall asleep. There is nothing at this moment, there is no, oh, I need to do this or that. It's finished at this moment. So this is the moment in which the so-called gross level death is concluded. So this is the moment in which normally we say the person has died. Okay? And the internal sign, the inner sign, is the called butter lamp vision. The butter lamp vision is that is like one fire of one like a candle, and then the candle fly is flickering, it's not stable. Okay, so the four visions are: first, there is the mirror, the mirage-like vision, in which is like when we close our eyes, there is some light, there is some shade, there may be some colors around, not so clear, and then there is some movement, like when we have like a mirage on the air. After that, it becomes like a smoke-like or like a foggy-like vision, like a big fog, everything white, like a fog. From that, it goes back into dark, but starts to have many like flickering lights, like points of light going out on. Okay, it's like when we close our eyes strong, suddenly, if we keep eyes closed, at some point we will start seeing points of light coming on. Okay, so and then after that, the points of light start stopping, and then come one main light, which is like flickering, like a candle that is about to end. Okay, and this is the vision at the moment of death. This is the vision at the moment when the gross level death happens. Okay, so with this is what normally we say a person has died. There is still a lot to go. The death has not been concluded yet, actually. So how do we? So from that we start the next level, which is the so-called subtle death, which is based on four visions. Okay. Well, to understand the subtle death, okay, first we name them. The four visions are based on the white visions, which is called the white appearance, the red vision or the red increase, the black vision or the black near attainment, which is also called, or the black total darkness. And then we have the clear light of death. These are the four aspects. Before that, here there is one aspect which I have read in different texts, and I received two different explanations. But for me, I can put the two together and they fit very well, which regards the 80 natural mental states. The 80 natural mental states basically are the aspects of our mind which regard attraction, aversion, and ignorance, and they can exist on a gross level or on a subtle level. The 80 natural mental states that regard on a gross level, they dissolve into the mind of the white vision, which means in the moment that the gross death concludes, there is no any more basis to sustain any conceptual thought, really. So the gross mind has no any more basis of support. So this, if we read in Self-Healing number 3, they are the description of all these 80 natural mental states. And they are like memories somehow. So basically, they are like the memories of how we relate to attraction, the memories of how we related during life to aversion or to indifference. So for example, in the part of aversion, there is shouting, there is hitting, there is memories of manifestations of aversion. On the part of attraction, there is like kissing, hugging, and so on, which is parts of the manifestations of attraction. So it depends very much for each one of us what was the way how we deal during our life with attraction and aversion. The more we deal with aversion and the more we deal with attraction in a non-peaceful way, non-controlled way, and so on, this is how it's going to manifest at that moment. The more we have a, let's say, healthy way to relate with our attraction and aversion, there are two natural energies that we have, nothing wrong with it, then the more we are going to have at that moment it coming in a more peaceful manner and positive way. Okay? So, as I have written here, the 18 natural, because this were the notes which I did based on the teachings I received in Tibet from my teacher, and he gave this explanation that the 18 natural mental states dissolve into the mind of the white appearance. 33 resulting from aversion, anger, 40 resulting from attraction, desire, 7 resulting from ignorance. So this means before the subtle process of death starts, and just as the gross level of death is ending, in between these two, exactly what joins the two states is that the last part remaining of the gross mind fades away, which are like the memories that we have of our actions of attraction, aversion, and indifference. Okay? And there are different explanations of this part, but this is one of the ways that for me is more clear. Then after that, there is another explanation which says that the 80 mental factors, 80 natural states of mind compose the subtle mind. And then this is dissolved with the white, red, and black vision. Okay? In other words, what happens is that any aspect of the mind which is from a gross level, it completely fades away as the gross death finishes. And all our states or memories of anger, of aversion, of attraction, and so on, they all come about at that moment. As the other aspects of the mind fade, they become more and more clear until they also fade away completely. After this, we enter the actual subtle death. The subtle death is divided into 4 steps, which is, as we just said, white, red, black vision, and clear light vision, which is also called empty, very empty, great empty, completely empty. This is just a name that is given to each one of these. Now, to understand this process, okay, and we have written here, the mind of white appearance dissolves into the mind of red increase. The mind of red increase dissolves into the mind of black near attainment. The mind of black near attainment dissolves into the mind of clear light of death. To understand this, we must first understand a bit of our subtle anatomy. Okay? Without looking at our subtle anatomy, we cannot truly understand this part of the process of death. Because when this part of the process of death is happening, we have no external signs. There is nothing that we can see to understand what is happening. It's something only internal that is going on. And it's the dissolution of the subtle body. The subtle body is made out of channels, winds, and drops. Channels refers mainly to, let's say, our nervous system. Winds are the energy that flows within the nervous system. And drops are more like dense forms of energy, and in some cases I think can be connected also with our hormones and so on. Okay? So we have mainly the central channel, which goes from our crown up to 3 fingers below the navel. Actually starts in our forehead, goes down from our crown, inside the spinal cord, which is basically where we have the central nervous system, okay, as it goes down. And then it goes, the central channel goes onto the basis of the spine. Then we have the left and the right channel, which the right side of the channel is red, the left channel is white. So they are opposite according to the male and female. Normally the right side of our body refers to our male part, the left side to our female part, but the channels are opposite. So the right channel is red, female, the left channel is white, male energy. And they go from the nostrils and they go around into certain points, which are the place for the chakras, starting at the forehead, then at the crown, throat, 2 times at the heart, and then on the navel. They go around the central channel and continue from the same side, from 2 sides. But what happens is that during our life, we have the tendency to use much more the right and the left channel than the central channel. The central channel is said to be where, when we have a mental state of stability, of balance, and so on, we use the central channel. Whenever we act out of attraction and aversion, we are using the left or the right channel. So most of the times in our life, we use the left and the right channel. By using the left and the right channel, we give them so much strength that they strangle the central channel. They go around, one from one side, one from the other, and then they close the central channel. What happened in the moment of death is that, so this knots, this closing, we have one at the forehead, crown, throat, 2 at the heart, navel. Okay. In the process, after the gross level of death happened, all the winds, they go in the direction of the heart. So as all the subtle winds go in the direction of the heart, they go through our channels, they absorb into the central channel, but first they loosen the knots because there is no more strength going to the left and right channel. So the knots gets loosened and the energy can flow. So we have at our crown chakra the white bodhicitta, which is the essence of the male energy of our father, which is of the energy of the mental state of aversion. Below the navel, there is the female energy of wisdom of our mother, which is also the energy of attraction. And then what happens is that first, the knots which are in our crown, they get loosened, and the white bodhicitta melts. It goes down. And then the knot at our throat gets loosened, it goes down. Then the knot at our heart gets loosened, and it goes to our heart. In our heart chakra, at the center of our heart, inside the central channel, there is what is called the indestructible drop. The indestructible drop is the essence of the union of the father and mother, white and red bodhicitta, which is in the moment of the union of the sperm and the ovum. What is the essence of the 2 energies is condensed in this so-called indestructible drop, which is like a nut shell, like 2 nut shells completely closed like this, which the upper part is white, made of the father energy, the lower part is red, made of the mother energy. And it's called the indestructible drop because until the moment of our death, it never opens. And inside of this indestructible drop is where our very subtle body and mind resides. Body and mind are always together from the gross, subtle, and very subtle level. So, as it resides inside of this. So what happened here is that when the white bodhicitta flows down up to our heart, and it touches the upper part of this indestructible drop, which is made of the white bodhicitta itself, it is when we experience the white vision. Okay? The perception is like everything becomes like white. It's said to be like the full moon on an autumn sky. And it's pleasurable, but it's total white vision. At the same time, after that, and at that moment also, the part of our mind, subtle mind, emotional, like non-cognitive aspect of our mind, non-conceptual part of our mind, which regards to aversion, fades away. Then the red bodhicitta goes up to the heart. Again, the knots are loosened, and then the red bodhicitta goes up, touches the indestructible drop at our heart, and as it goes up, we have the so-called red vision. The red vision, it is actually the moment when all the subtle part of our mind of attraction also fades away, because there is no anymore the subtle body to sustain the subtle states of attraction and aversion. Okay? So not in this moment, not only we don't have anymore any conceptual thoughts, there is not even more subtle forms of emotions of attraction and aversion. Also this fades away, our subtle mind fades away in that moment. And then there is this red vision that is said to be like the sky, the autumn sky of a sunset, which is like everything becomes this beautiful red. And then from the red, it goes to black, which is the black vision. The black vision technically is when the white bodhicitta touches the upper part of the indestructible drop, the red bodhicitta touches the lower part of the indestructible drop, then the red bodhicitta goes up, the right bodhicitta goes down, and this turns over, this makes the indestructible drop to turn. Okay? As it turns and it opens, the moment that it turns around is the so-called black vision. Okay? It's a moment where everything simply shuts off. There is nothing anymore. Like no any type of perception, no any type of sensation, gross, subtle, nothing. Completely gone. It's just like as if there was no mind. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's like completely faint, nothing there. It's like turn completely off the lights, nothing remained there. This is why it's called also the deep black vision. Okay, and or the black dark vision also is called sometimes. Anyhow, this moment, it's at that moment there is no subtle mind, there is no gross mind, simply no sensation. Like basically there is no any perception of anything. It's almost like the concept of death as the complete end of everything. Okay? When the bodhicittas, they turn around and they open, there's a moment when the indestructible drop opens. That's when the last part of the process of death happens, which is called the clear light. Okay? The clear light technically happens when the indestructible drop opens. So at that moment, the inner experience is that from a total darkness where there is nothing, suddenly appears a small light. And this small light is very strong, because if we're in total darkness and there is a small light, it actually becomes very strong. And gradually it takes over the whole darkness and there is nothing more than light. Okay? This is the moment when there is nothing more, nothing less for us than our very subtle body and mind. This is the actual moment of death. After this moment, there is no going back. That's the actual moment of death. It is said that until this moment, technically speaking, it would be possible to move backwards the process of death and not dying. Okay? It will be possible to go backwards again. That's why when we have like near-death experience or whatever, I think that most of the cases there can be people that have reached some level of the process of death, but have not died completely. Once the process of death is complete, there is no going back. And even there were some meditators which are said to enter in such control of their winds, they make all the subtle winds to absorb into the central channel and the heart chakra in a way that they only simulate, they induce themselves through the process of death up to almost the clear light, then they go back again. So they stop breathing, they stop any movement, they stop. It's like if the person was completely dead. And then after they go back again, okay? This means very high practice. It's not something for me, at least. It's like, okay, it is something that we're talking about hopefully one day, but not yet. This is just to say that, technically speaking, until the point of the clear light, just before the clear light, it is still possible to go backwards, supposedly. Extremely rare and difficult, but supposedly possible. The less the process of death has been going on, the more it's possible to go back somehow, no? But once the actual death happens, that's why it's called the clear light of death. If we need to point the finger to the actual death, that's clear light. And that's even interesting because one day I was in Google and I put the word death and I made a search by image. There is not one nice, beautiful thing. There is not one nice, beautiful image. No? And for me, when out of this understanding, when I say the word death, the image that comes to me is clear light. Okay? Because clear light is the actual death. The rest is the part of the process of death. You know, the person not being able to breathe and this and that and so on. That's just the beginning of the process of death. It's not the actual death itself. The actual death is the so-called clear light, which is in the moment in which the very subtle body and mind gets out of this nutshell of so-called indestructible drop. Okay? So that's the moment of the actual death. And this is one of the most precious moments that any one of us can ever have. Okay? The problem is that normally we would go through that moment completely unaware, like if we are drunk and we just go through it. Or it's like when falling asleep, you know. Actually, there is also the clear light of sleep. Tomorrow we are going to talk about it. But when we are sleeping, until which point of our falling asleep can we be aware normally? I think until the earth and starting at water, okay? After that, forget about it, normally. We can train ourselves to be aware of the next steps also. But it's extremely difficult. It is possible to be aware after the gross level, the gross sleeping have happened. And to be aware of the process of the subtle sleeping. Normally, no one of us is aware of that. What happens normally is we fall asleep, we are gone, and then suddenly after some time we start dreaming. Okay? So what happens is that actually it's also possible to be aware of the process even during our sleep. Similar to death. For most of us, we are not aware during the subtle process of death. It just goes by like, okay? But technically, this is what is happening. That's why we have these four visions. And the clear light is the moment where there is nothing more than the very subtle mind with a very subtle body. And it's a very special opportunity for the spiritual practice, because if we can change anything there, we change it from the roots. We go directly to a very subtle level. Nowadays, we have so many gross level thoughts, and it's so complicated, our mind, and so many thoughts. It takes a long time to make any change. Okay? At that moment, we are free from any of this. Okay? So, but this we will talk more tomorrow. So this is the actual process, how it happens during the process of death. One important thing for us is to understand that when we talk about 3 days, when the person dies, the 3 days are counting from the beginning of the gross moment, the gross process of death, which means the dissolution of earth, to the end of the subtle death. Okay? I want just to put this clear, because sometimes people are very worried, oh, someone have died, and here in the West we're not allowed to keep the body for a long period, and so on. So how do we know that the process of death is complete? One of the ways is that in the moment that the subtle death is complete, which means the red bodhicitta goes down, the white bodhicitta goes up. Sorry, the white bodhicitta goes down, the red bodhicitta goes up. There can be, it depends of how strong the body of the person was. If a person was very sick and very weak, this doesn't happen. But if the person is not so weak, mostly it should happen that there is like a white liquid coming out from the lower parts of the body, or a red liquid coming out from the higher part of the body, like from the nose. This is symbolizing, or it is the actual red bodhicitta and the white bodhicitta that get out. Okay? So this is a moment, this is a clear sign to say, okay, the process of death is concluded. Another sign is that the person loses completely any sort of, so in English before the word before, luster. There is no more any like brightness in the body of the person, no? And also the body starts to get all hard and to start to smell. So this is a clear sign that the process of death has completely finished. Okay. One thing that is possible also, some people, is a rare thing to happen, but they can stay into the state of the subtle death for a longer period of time. Okay? especially they can stay in the moment of clear light for a longer period of time. What are the external signs of this? Even though the person has stopped breathing and so on, the area of the heart remain not hot, but remain like tiepido, tepid, like a little warm. And then we have also the fact that the person the body doesn't start to smell. And there is still this brightness in the body, this lust in the body. So this is one thing. For example, we had 2 cases of this, just to give 2 practical examples. One, there was one monk in Serpa Monastery, I think 2-3 years ago, something like this. And he was not like the most well-known monk as a great practitioner and so on. But when he died, he entered into the clear light state for a long time. I think 2-3 weeks he stayed in that state. No? Wait. Okay. So tomorrow we are going to talk about what's the reason of this and so on. I'm just talking now that it's actually possible. Okay. So what happened is that this monk, he entered into the state of clear light, and he stayed on that state for quite a long time. What is the sign of that? That even though he was dead, in the sense that no more breathing, no more heartbeat, and so on, still his body was not smelling. He had some heat on the heart, and you could see the brightness in him still. Okay? This is a sign of some high inner realization. Okay? Another example, which is showing also another way of this, is when one of my gurus, good friend of Rinpoche, also Kyabche Dragon Rinpoche, he passed away. He was sick, traveling back from Nepal, going to Switzerland, and in the way he stopped in Bangkok, and he was not well at all, and he had one person accompany him, which was the brother of Tsetan Gyurme, Dorje Wande, I'm quite sure it was Dorje Wande. And Dorje Wande at that time was with him, so he felt very badly and so on, so he took him to the hospital. And finally he passed away in the hospital there in Bangkok. And then there was a little problem because he passed away in the bed of the emergency. And you cannot keep people too long in the bed of emergency because other people need to come in a hospital. Luckily, they were in a Buddhist country. And so they respected him. They understood he was an important Buddhist master. So they kept him almost for 1 day there because he entered into clear light. And it was very clear because his body didn't lose this brightness, the heart was still with some heat. And Dorje Wando didn't have much understanding about all of this. So he was talking with Gonsa Rinpoche, some other ones, they were giving instructions. Okay, this is this, that is that, look what is happening and so on. And the problem was that the doctors and the people from the hospital were saying, come on, we need to take the body out with all the due respect. But we need a bed for other people that need to come in. But they could not touch the body in that case because he was into this deep, and they would disturb this deep state of meditation. And imagine a practitioner is his whole life waiting for clear light, and finally comes, then someone move you out. It's not really the best thing to happen. And it's a very strong form of disrespect also. So for this type of situations, there are some sorts of meditations and prayers in which the disciples request the Guru to go out of the clear light. So Dorje Wando was calling, saying, oh, I don't know what to do, the doctors need to stop. So then they were doing these practices here, and very short time later, he was looking, and then suddenly he could see that he actually truly finished his process, he passed away. Because he said that the brightness went away, then suddenly that state of the heat went also away. But he said the most interesting was like, you could see on the face that he was there, and then he was not there anymore. This we can see. Actually, if we look at a person that have just stopped breathing, that a subtle death has not yet finished, and you look at a person that is a corpse, that a subtle death has already finished, there is a big difference between the two. We can feel presence, actually. Okay? So, I want to say this because in case someone of our family, our friends, someone passed away, we don't need to enter into so much worries about when can I burn the body, when can I, how do you call it in English? Not cremate, no, to bury the body and so on. We don't need to make so much worries about this. Some people were very guilty. Oh, I did it before 3 days. It's not a matter of counting the 3 days. It's a matter of giving the time for the subtle death to conclude. In some people it can be very long. In some people it can take longer time. It can be very short. So generally speaking, to be sure, it's left 3 days. But if we see that the body has no more any type of heat, that naturally the body starts to smell, and then we can see that there is no more brightness in the body of the person is no more presence there, this means the process of death is concluded. And if we still see, even better, if we see the liquid coming out from the nose or the lower parts of the body, then we are 100% sure the process of death has completed. Then there is no problem in cremating, into anything else. The only danger of cremating or moving the body around before this have concluded is because by doing that, we can accelerate the process of death. And this is mainly a problem for people that have prepared themselves for that. For most of us that have no preparation for that, then it's not such a big deal. Because anyhow, we go through that in a way that is very, unconscious. Okay? Another subject that is directly connected to it, one small thing just to make clear. From the Buddhist perspective, there is no difference if you cremate, if you bury, if you throw in the water, whatever you do with the body. Okay? It is said the body comes from the elements and go back to the elements. If it goes back to fire, if it goes to water, if it goes to earth, if it goes to wind, it doesn't matter. Okay? Traditionally in Tibet, what they would do is that because there was no much firewood, most of the people, the bodies were given to the, how do you call it in English? To the vultures, which from our perspective, Western, it looks like something a bit strange, no? Actually, the concept is that the vultures need to eat, they like flesh, and the person is not there, it's just the body of the person is not there anymore. So in the moment they give the body to the birds, it's an act of generosity, of feeding the birds. So it's a way of helping someone out of the body. So it's a way of accumulating merits for the person that died. Okay, that's the basic concept behind. What they would do in Tibet is when a person would have died with a very bad sicknesses there could be an infection, then they would burn the body. When it was a person that was seen as a very bad person, like a negative person and so on, then they would bury the body and build a black stupa on top. Okay, this was very rare cases happen. And the lamas, the great masters, practitioners, they would be burnt, cremated, with a special ceremony and so on, or they can be imbalsamati, embalmed, okay? So there are these different ways. Sure, the body is not anymore the person, but the body keeps the energy of the person somehow. That's why when we have people of great love and wisdom and great masters, their bones and their ashes and so on have a special energy within it, okay? And have some connection with them somehow. So this is just one of the, let's not say not exactly curiosity, but some practical aspects related to it, okay? Personally, for me, when I die, whoever will be there, do whatever you like. I don't care, sincerely, but this is my own thing, okay? In the sense that it really makes no difference. Because we are already gone, so the body is just a piece of flesh after we are gone. This is a problem of those that remain, not the one that has died. So I personally think it's not my problem once I die what happened to my body. This is my own thinking, but this is my own way of looking at it, okay? We can still choose if you like to say, no, I like to be cremated, and my ashes, I like to be done this, and I want to do that, and so on. That's fine, beautiful. I just think that once I die, I need to be careful, take care of what happens after with me. I take care of myself, not what happens to the body. Sincerely, I don't care much about that. Anyhow, one aspect which is important is people ask often, what about donating organs? Okay. This is my own personal point of view, okay? So don't take it as what Buddhism says. I'm telling my own personal view. It is that if we prepare ourselves during lifetime to meditate on the clear light, okay, then it's better not to donate organs, because the organs must be donated just after the gross level of death. So most probably they will accelerate the subtle process of death. So that's not the case if we have been preparing your whole life to meditate on the clear light, and then suddenly there you get, and then they're cutting you and accelerating it in a way. If we have no preparation to meditate on the moment of the process of death and to meditate on the union of the clear light of death and the Dharmakaya, then it's better to donate organs. Because by donating the organs, we use our own death as a way to help someone else to survive, and we accumulate a lot of positive merits through that, a lot of positive karma to that. So I think it's something wonderful to donate organs. The only exception where I would say it's better not to donate organs is in the case of a person that has all the preparation and the ability to meditate on the process of death and clear light. That's the only case when I think it's better not. Okay? This is just the two distinctions about this. So, this is something that is important for us to understand this process. The subtle process of death, it's something that it becomes very important on our meditation practice, and it's just by understanding the subtle process of death that we can understand how we can transform death into the path to enlightenment. Okay? So today we have seen this more, let's say, technical part, which in Tibetan we call Shiku Sulankir, which means the basis of the three transformations. Actually, we have seen the basis of the first transformation, which is death. What I would like to explain tomorrow, maybe we take this tomorrow morning, which is to explain the bardo. Okay, so once we enter into clear light, what happens after? After that, we are reborn in the bardo. Then from the bardo, we can have different lives in the bardo. Then from the bardo, we are reborn into a gross body. So we still have the process of bardo and the process of rebirth to see. And then after that, the meditation on transforming death, bardo, and rebirth. Okay? So this is more or less the plan. I have always this difficulty that it looks like we have a lot of time, and finally, there's so much for us that's possible to see and so on, that even 4 days is not that much anyhow. But it's still a lot. So tomorrow, we will see, possibly tomorrow and the day after, I'd like to see with you the teachings that regard the 9 mixings. I like just to say the name, just to understand what it is about, that we'll see tomorrow. We have the mixing of the death, or the clear light of death of meditation. It's when we simulate the process of death through meditation with the Dharmakaya, which is the subtle mind of a Buddha, the very subtle mind and body of a Buddha. Then we mix the bardo of meditation with the enjoyment body, or Sambhogakaya, which is the subtle body and mind of a Buddha. And then we mix the rebirth on meditation with the gross mind and body of a Buddha, or body of emanation, Nirmanakaya. These are the first 3 mixings. The second set of 3 is, we mix the actual clear light of sleep, which is not a meditation, it's the actual clear light of sleep. Every time we fall asleep, we enter into clear light of sleep. We mix the clear light of sleep with the Dharmakaya. We mix the actual dream with the Sambhogakaya, and we mix the actual awakening with the Nirmanakaya. Then the last 3 mixings is, finally, mixing the actual clear light of death with Dharmakaya, the pure, subtle, very subtle state of mind of a Buddha. We mix our actual bardo, it's transformed into the subtle, very subtle, the subtle body of a Buddha, Sambhogakaya, the enjoying body, and the process of rebirth is transformed into the emanation body, or Nirmanakaya. Okay, we'll see this tomorrow. Basically, is first we simulate in meditation, then let's say in brackets we enter into the actual simulator, which is sleeping, dreaming, and awakening, and then we prepare ourselves through that for the actual thing, which is our actual death. Okay, And one of the very special things of this is that it shows to us that if we really practice in that way, our process of sleeping is the most precious thing that we have. It's the best opportunity in our whole life to prepare for our own death and for enlightenment. So, it's something very, very special. And we use a part of our life that normally we don't use by any ways, and we put it consciously, at least we don't use it, and it can be the most precious experience, okay? These are teachings that are normally kept very secretly, are not open teachings at all. But I think that some of this we have, all of us, most of us have received higher yoga tantra empowerments, and we have received many teachings in many ways. But I think if this type of teachings are kept secret in our times, they will remain really secret. Nobody else would know them anymore. So I believe that it's important to share for us to at least to have an idea what is possible. Then after we will see how much we can go, so we can have an objective of what we want to do at least. This doesn't mean that all of us were going to go right away able to put it into practice, but we have some idea of the direction that we can follow also. Okay? So we conclude here for today, and then we will continue tomorrow morning. Jetsun lame kutse raptenchi namkar tile chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasumgi drove musel taktu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshi Ninsen taktu delekpe Koncho sumge jingilo Koncho sumge ngodrup sol Koncho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.